What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about something that could be positive, could be negative. Really just depends on what you think of this whole situation. It's kind of a subjective thing, but anyway, for those of you who may not have been paying attention to the news or anything recently, Electronic Arts, EA, the video game company, they were recently bought out by Saudi Arabia, like the actual country itself. Which the reason why these oil kings, bought these oil princes bought EA is due to the fact that they simply want to make better video games with less political messaging and less political pushing, really, right? Basically propaganda. And a lot of companies, including a lot of news article outlets, are saying, oh, this is a bad thing for the workers. Well, the sad reality is, EA, whether you like this truth or not, they made their bed, they have to lay in it. And ultimately, this buyout probably would have never even happened if EA focused on making better content and more unique content, and instead of just copy-pasting their sports games and, releasing it as something brand new every other year. But what's funny, usually that's where a video like this would end, right? Oh, well, Saudi Arabia, they bought out EA and game quality should get better, right? Well, what if I told you that the US government, there are certain senators in the House of Congress that are currently trying to fight against this buyout? In particular, U.S. senators such as Richard Blumenthal and Elizabeth Warren, they have currently voiced concern about the announced $55 billion buyout of EA, which is pretty ironic because only a few years ago, Chinese companies, really Tencent, they're one of the biggest ones, they have literally acquired and invested in numerous U.S. and international gaming studios. And just as an example, Riot Games, Tencent bought them. And Riot Games, they're the developer of League of Legends, Valorant. Tencent bought them and owns them, Riot Games completely, back in 2011. And they finished the purchase in 2015. There are a few other studios they fully own, but Tencent also has partial ownership and major investment in Epic Games. You know, the company that literally makes and manages and runs Fortnite, only the biggest game ever for brain-rotted 12-year-olds. They also have a 30% share in Larian Studios, which they're known for making Baldur's Gate 3. They also have a 16% stake in Elden Ring and Dark Souls because they've invested in From Software. And the list just goes on and on and on. And it's just crazy to me how in America we're told that China is like our main primary competitor, right? We can't let them get a foothold. And yet the politicians don't have a problem when they're buying out almost all of our video game media industry. You know what I mean? They're picking favorites here, and it's honestly sad that the gaming industry has even gotten to this point, because we all know the reason why these companies are selling. We know why Ubisoft is failing so badly to the point where they're legitimately thinking about becoming a private studio. We all know why Insomniac, Spider-Man's 2 game, sold horribly on PC. We all know why, and it's because the pushing of this far-left ideology in every single game. And look, I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, whatever, but I need to make this video to tell you guys that when people play video games or watch movies or even read a book, 99% of the time when people do that stuff, they do it to escape the world. They do it to get away from politics, because the majority of the time, political discussions and stuff like this are negative. And if anything, the death of the Western video game studio, it's entirely because of places like Hollywood and stuff, where they keep pushing all of this political propaganda down people's throat, and people are tired of it. There's actually a Steam group that still to this day has a lot of members. It's called Sweet Baby Detected. Sweet Baby, for those of you who don't know, is actually a consultancy company that a lot of bigger video game studios like Ubisoft, Insomniac, that they've actually hired to go in their game and force diversity, force trends that typically would not be happening in real life, and force messaging and stuff like that. And yeah, it's people are tired of it, and that's why these companies are suffering. Some have raised concerns that the acquisition could affect EA's creative direction and editorial decisions. Well, duh. That's literally the whole point. You know, these. I can't stand reading articles, man. It's like side tangent, but I can't stand reading articles by extremely biased companies. They don't want they don't want a return to, you know, normalcy. They don't want content that doesn't have overt political messaging, overt ideological messaging, you know. They don't want the return of anything normal. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. And you play Chinese games, Chinese, Japanese, you know, basically Eastern studio games. Almost none of them have any political propaganda in them, and because of that, I mean, it's amazing. 99% of the time, you know? And, you know, people also wonder why so many gamers to this day are still playing games that are 3 to 5, even 10 years older, because of the fact that those games don't have any overt political messaging, and they don't have any kind of ideology they're trying to shove down your throat. Just recently on stream, I've started playing a game that was released when I was 6 years old. It's called Fear 2. I was going to play the first Fear on stream, but that game is so old it doesn't support 1080p resolution. Anyway, I'm playing this game that's literally 6 years younger than me. And the whole time I'm playing it on stream, I keep saying, because my mind is literally exploding, you know, I can interact with the environment, you know, I can actually, the AI in the game is so intelligent, I actually feel like I'm going against real people sometimes, even though I'm not. And the graphics, they still to this day hold up, you know? Games like that aren't made anymore, and it's because there's become less and less and less of a focus on quality, and more and more and more and more of a focus on propaganda, on overt messaging, on subconscious control, right? And it sucks because this has also happened in the movie industry too. You have things like Star Wars. They were completely destroyed in what's oh man, don't even get me started on Star Wars. The the Star Wars trilogy, the sequel trilogy, when that first film came out, it had such potential. Ever since I was a little boy, I've always thought it would be so cool to see a stormtrooper like basically realize they're the bad guys and over time become a rebel and maybe even like a Jedi, hero, right? They had so much potential there and they threw it out the window. You know, we could have had a story where Daisy Ridley, Ray Skywalker, she could have been the outlier of the franchise. You know, they could have actually taken her and twisted her into becoming evil. But no, they had to go the Mary Sue route because women are they can't ever mess up. They can't do anything bad. You know what I mean? But yeah, in conclusion, these buyouts. I'm hoping these buyouts will lead to better content in general. You know, games like Elden Ring, games like Expedition 33. Elden Ring was made by an Eastern development studio, and I'm pretty sure it was From Software, right? Yeah, I think so. And Expedition 33, they were made by an indie team. and yet it's a better AAA experience than the majority of games in the past 5 years. That's why I truly believe games like Hollow Knight, Silk Song, games like Expedition 33, if these devs could actually somehow cooperate with one another, they could literally destroy this current gaming market of we need games to be $80, $90 just for the base game, and then we're gonna lock half the game behind DLC. You know, that's ridiculous. But in the end, if you guys have the money, check out some of those older games, man. If you see a game you're interested in and you see it's made by an indie studio, Project Zomboid is actually one of my favorite zombie games ever because of how incredibly realistic and in-depth that game is. If you guys haven't heard of it, it's on PC, but man, that game is so awesome. You know, and there's also another game that I recently have been keeping my eye on called Infection Free Zone. That's also a game made by small developers. It only costs 25 bucks and it goes on sale constantly. And in the end, I believe we have reached a point in time where indie studios are going to be making better games and thriving more than these AAA companies. And in the end, the only people these companies can blame is themselves. So, yeah. If you guys like the video, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. I am interested in hearing what you guys have to say about this or what you guys think about this. Because for me, it's kind of a 50-50 thing, right? I don't like the fact that entire countries can literally just buy out companies, right? But at the same time, I also know if stuff like this doesn't happen, the quality of the games and movies and shows we get is going to keep going down and down and down and down. So let me know what you guys think down below. Is this a overall positive thing? Is this, you know, a 50-50, kind of good, kind of bad, like I think, or is it just overall negative? But yeah, regardless, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.